Hi, I'm Shintia Revina, the Deputy Team Leader of RISE Indonesia. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the politics of teacher recruitment with many examples drawn from our studies in RISE Indonesia. And as we specifically examine the relationship between teachers and the systems of which they are part, in this Unit 6 on teachers, I will discuss the issues and challenges in the teacher recruitment system in developing countries, specifically in Indonesia, and then I will outline how the problems has been maintained by the absence of political motivation from education stakeholders to improve the system and the existence of political gains of recruiting teachers using the existing process. The first question that might appear when discussing teacher recruitment is perhaps what is actually the problem with staffing our classrooms? While there is no single answer to this question, in general, we can identify two main problems with staffing the classrooms in our country. First, the number of qualified teachers relative to the number of students is considerably low in many countries, and as of 2012, according to a UNESCO report in 2015, the students to teacher ratio is approximately 40 to 1 or higher. In rural areas, the ratio is even higher. This number actually has informed us that new approaches for increasing the supply of qualified teachers are urgently required. And some countries have actually initiated a mechanism for more effective distributions and equitable allocation of teachers. Also, in identifying which schools had severe teacher shortage and giving the schools higher priority when deploying newly recruited teachers. When the supply still cannot meet the demand, some countries are turning to contract teachers who often hired informally. Nevertheless, when we have adequate supply of trained teachers or qualified teachers, unfortunately the teachers are ill qualified. This means even teachers with recognized qualification or certification, they do not have fundamental knowledge and skills to undertake the role of effective teachers. So in other words, when teacher supply increases, teacher quality does not necessarily increase. And while some countries have implemented teacher screening system, the teachers who pass the screening still not proven to have the required knowledge and skills to teach effectively. In this relation, past research have highlighted that the existing recruitment system of new teachers is not answering to attract and select highly skilled best teachers to teach our classrooms. And since I mentioned that even teachers who have passed a series of government screening mechanisms still do not demonstrate good teaching knowledge and skills, the next question is perhaps, why is it so hard to recruit good teachers and what are the challenges? The main problem with our teaching workforce is actually the low quality of the pool of teacher candidates. This is rooted from the low status of teaching profession and as a consequence of low wages. So teaching jobs do not attract the best candidates. And in my experience, high school graduates with good grades in Indonesia might not be choosing teaching as a career. And even when good candidates are attracted to the profession and decided to enter government-owned teacher training institution, many of them are not well trained. The training did not add significantly to what teachers have known before entering the training. And even those who graduate from teacher college and are better skilled may want to choose to teach at private schools that offer higher salary and benefits. Another major problem that can explain why teachers who have passed a series of government screening mechanisms still do not demonstrate good teaching knowledge and skills in the screening tools itself is the screening tools itself. It is often that teacher selection mainly based on thin, not thick standards, and by thin standard, the selection process often relies on the checklist of academic qualification and general exam. In Indonesia, for example, teacher hiring is part of generic civil service, and the exam for teaching or non-teaching position is just the same. In this picture, you can see that people who took the test are actually applying to different civil servant positions, including teachers, doctors, university lecturer, engineer, and to be extreme, the municipality office receptionist. They all took the same civil servant screening test. So basically, if an applicant to a teaching position has a degree in teaching a subject and can pass this generic civil servant exam, this person will be hired as teacher in our public school. While we all know that teaching staffs are expected to perform jobs to educate children, which require a unique skill set, the selection does not assess the professional standards for teachers. And the next issue is on the absence of curation period in our teacher recruitment process. And for this, you may want to read an article by Yu Yihua and Lan Pritchett on what I meant by curation period. But basically, this is a period to identify those teachers who are most willing and able to make career-long contribution to children's learning. In many countries, it is actually nearly impossible to fire government teachers once they are hired. Quite often that passing exam or initial screening is equal to long-term employment, with civil servant probation period to be highly administrative. And if we talk about contract teacher status here, there is no continuation from a teacher contract status to civil servant status. The system just did not make use of contract teaching as learning period or as probationary period. So, yes, it is difficult to recruit good teachers, but these teachers are hired anyway, right? So what kind of teachers that we have now? They must fit into some criteria, but fit to what purpose? In my observation, that since the current teacher recruitment system, both when entering teacher training or when entering employment, has not able to select those with adequate knowledge and skills. So in principle, we are not sure if the person recruited is fit with the job. And so, seeing the teaching and learning quality of our nation is so low, I think we should not be too surprised, since the ones who are assigned to undertake the job to educate our children might not be the right person. And in conclusion, we need a better mechanism to ensure that we assign good teachers to our public schools. And while the teacher is not necessarily fit to the job, unfortunately, we are not sure either about teacher fitness to the school or to the collective group of teaching staff in the school where they are teaching. Some papers on teacher deployment have highlighted the fact that many teachers in rural places in sub-Saharan Africa or even in Indonesia ask to change their placement upon hire to a more urban location. This is, of course, often highly political, but the system itself just has not anticipated the fitness of the teacher candidate with the school. This is mainly because school often has no authority or involvement in civil servant teacher recruitment, and in the selection of, in the case of contract teachers, the school has little capacity to ensure the quality of contract teachers because virtually there is no selection process for contract teacher, right? And in the case of Indonesia, teacher recruitment is authorized and managed by the general civil service system. And so the teachers that we have now are those who can actually pass the exams, which assess a person's knowledge on a government regulation or their agreement with civil values, nationalism, and patriotism instead of a certain teaching philosophy. So, knowing all this, the next question is that why there has no resolution to or efforts to improve the teacher recruitment for quality? The answer is because the stakeholders or actors involved in the process have little interest to improve it. And here I will talk about what happened in Indonesia and start with the role of politicians and political parties in the process. So basically, the members of parliament at the national level have both formal and informal power to inform policy and resource allocation for civil servant teachers, while the member of parliament at the district or regional level and mayors or governors have formal and informal power to inform policy and resource allocation for non-civil servants or contract teachers. But these policymakers have not seen the advantage of raising teacher standards to their benefit. On the contrary, the politicians may receive protests from teachers and unions for raising the standards. Interestingly, in Indonesia case, recruitment of civil servant teachers and promotion of contract teacher status to civil servant status often increases during election years, with contract teachers demand local politicians take action on what they have promised during the campaign, which is the automatic promotion. And this is very much political. Besides, the politicians may see that the priority of policymakers is to increase teacher welfare and teacher quality should be handled by the ministry, the technical expert, the expert in the field. So if if the policymakers have to set up regulation, at best, usually it would result in increasing academic qualification or certification paper. Again, this is the thin input, not the thick ones. But according to the ministries, there is only one civil servant recruitment system applied to all professions, including teaching positions. So their role is mainly administrative, and so they think they just try to comply with the regulations set by the constitutions. And likewise, for the Ministry of Education, they cannot overhaul the process in the human resource ministries. And so their role in teacher recruitment is limited to providing data on the resources needed by other ministries, including the Ministry of Finance, that determine the fixed budget that we have for a certain fiscal year for teaching staff payroll. And in conclusion, politically, no one would like to take responsibility on ensuring the quality of recruited teachers. At local level, even with decentralization and higher district-wide autonomy, local education agency has little authority or the budgetary space to determine the civil servant teacher decision. And the worst happened pre-2017 when civil servant tasks were still paper-based and administered by local education agency and regional department of civil service employment at the district or provincial level, which raised the risk of corruption during this period. And civil servant status are attracting many people in the district with low minimum regional wages, and so applicants are willing to bribe the administrators to win the civil servant position. And in districts that have established allowance systems for registered contract teachers, teachers often rely on social networks with local education agency officials and school principals to open negotiations in order to support the deliberate creation of a contract teacher decision in the respective schools. And talking about political interests of teacher policy, it will not be complete without talking about the union's interests. And in teacher recruitment, in principle, unions oppose the idea of increasing standards in teacher recruitment and generally in any teacher competence test. Unions often argue that teaching is a noble profession and competence tests cannot really assess the characters of good teachers anyway. In the past, unions sometimes organize public demonstration and exercise their individual connections to pressure policymakers into rewarding long-year service contract teachers with civil servant status without examinations or certifications. This is because the union see teachers have dedicated their life for the education for many years with low salary, and this civil servant status is something is kind of reward that they deserve. That's what they argue so far. So in conclusion, the problem of poor teacher recruitment has not been resolved because it is maintained by the absence of political motivation to improve the system and the existence of political gains of recruiting teachers with minimal screening process. And the political interest in improving the education sector appears to focus more on increasing teacher supply and teacher welfare rather than enhancing the teaching quality. This is in this relation, the issue of teacher wages or status are more visible to constituents perhaps, while improving the quality of education may go unnoticed and take a long time to resolve. To sum up, to move forward, I think it is critical for our education system to dedicate significant political will to set expectations for teaching quality and the quality of its education workforce. This means political negotiation is necessary, and this negotiation should be able to build a national narrative for better teaching quality. Of course, this is an important long-term goal for an impactful reform, and ideally, this is followed by alignment of policy implementation at all levels. I think that's all for this lecture, and please go to the reading for the unit to get a more comprehensive understanding of the topic. Thank you.